You're not going to believe what I just pulled off of the internet. Retired pro hockey player first to receive total artificial heart in upstate New York. This is tremendous technology that can have a dramatic effect on patients who are experiencing advanced heart failure, says H. Todd Massey, MD, surgical director of the blah, blah, blah Artificial Heart Program, who led the surgery. Orlando was diagnosed with a rare disease known as sarcoidosis. Sarcoidosis is a relatively easy thing to take care of with holistic medicine. Sarcoidosis is an essential fatty acid deficiency and multiple mineral deficiency, and there can also be problems with the sarcoid tissue in the lungs, specifically aggravated by all of the wrong food. The article goes on to say that this led to heart failure and caused potentially fatal arrhythmias. No, it did not. The arrhythmias happened at the same time that the sarcoidosis did. They're completely unrelated. Most of the time, when you get a funky beat in your heart, which can be life-threatening, your heart beats too slow, then it beats too fast, then it beats really fast, then it beats too slow, then it beats really, really fast, and there's no controlling it. Most of the time, when that happens, the heart is completely fine. The problem is the nerve transmissions going to the heart. Where do the nerve transmissions come from? They come from the spinal cord. What is causing the problem? Most of the time with arrhythmias of this extent, the problem isn't the heart, it's the intervertebral discs that cushion the nerves, plural, as they come out of the spinal cord, going to the heart, going to the bladder, going to the lungs, going to wherever they go. When the cushions in the disc, which are like feather pillows, have lost their feathers, the nerves that come out right there get squished and pressed on by the anatomy of the body. And when they get squished and pressed on, funny things happen to the nerve transmissions. You know what it feels like when you hit your funny bone, right? Your fingers start tingling. Well, when those nerves going to your heart, which regulate the heartbeat, get squished by degenerative disc disease, guess what? You're going to get a funky heartbeat. And this guy was a hockey player. He was 41 years old. 41 years old. They gave him an artificial heart while they're waiting for a heart transplant. They gave him an artificial heart. It's unbelievable, and they're touting this as remarkable progress. If this guy was my patient, we could have fixed the arrhythmia in 6 months. Wouldn't have had to rip his old heart out. Well, nothing wrong with the heart. But this is how the MD thinks. As God is my witness, the MD is a colorblind art critic. They are completely enamored of their own position. They are completely enamored of their own point of view. And they will not give it up for anything else. And they develop remarkable, breathtakingly remarkable heroic interventions. Oh, an artificial heart and everybody's happy, right? Yeah, I don't think so. It's one thing if you're in Iraq and you get shrapnel in your heart like Tony Stark, Iron Man, and you have to have some type of mechanical intervention to keep the heart alive, that's one thing. But when there's organic change to the heart, 99.9% of the time it's related to medical nutrition. And guess what? He's a hockey player. Guess what? Hockey players and professional athletes are some of the most unhealthy people on the planet because couch potatoes live longer than professional athletes. Did you know that? Did you know that there's never been a professional athlete to live to be over 100? Well, that's a lie. There was one African-American guy from the old Negro baseball leagues, but he was it. If exercise was so healthy and so beneficial to the human body, then you would think that professional athletes must be the most healthy people on the planet. They certainly should be the longest-lived people because, for heaven's sake, they are paid to exercise. Well, they're not. Why aren't they? Because everybody's nutritionally deficient. And by everybody, I mean everybody. Now, when you have an athlete and they're nutritionally deficient, they're going to be burning through their reserves that much faster. If I had two automobiles and they were exactly the same year, make, and model, and they both had, 50,000 miles on them, they both needed 8 quarts of oil, but they both only have 2. If both of the cars are exactly identical and they are both down 6 quarts of oil, if I drive one of those cars at 10 miles an hour and the other car at 100 miles an hour, which one is going to burn out first? The one I'm driving at 100 miles an hour. It's the same when you exercise. Exercise without nutrition is suicide. Suicide. Let me say it one more time. Suicide. And that's what happens all the time. And then the medical doctor says, oh, it must be a bad gene. He must have had a bad gene. Guess what? No, he didn't have a bad gene. He had a bad doctor. And guess what? In the 20th century in Europe, cardiomyopathy heart and enlarged hearts, which is one of the things that happens when you exercise too much because your body runs out of the mineral selenium. Cardiomyopathy enlarged hearts are caused in large part by not enough of the mineral selenium. Selenium, that's S-E-L-E-N-I-U-M. And in Europe, in the 20th century, enlarged heart was called athlete's heart. It was called athlete's heart because the majority of people that they did autopsies on after they died who had enlarged hearts were athletes. Athletes are prone to getting these things. Why? Is there some athletic gene? Or all these athletes have the same gene that causes an enlarged heart? Well, your medical doctor would have you believe so. But it's not. It's a simple selenium deficiency. Why doesn't your MD know this? Because your MD is a colorblind art critic. Your medical doctor isn't trained in medicine. Your medical doctor is trained in pharmaceutical medicine. And pharmaceutical medicine is one small piece of the medical pie. It's a really small piece. But they have convinced you and everybody else in this country that that one eeny-weeny-teeny piece is the only piece that's worth looking at. And all the other pieces are quackery. Right? And we've bought it hook, line, and sinker. And this is a big problem here, folks. This is why everybody, especially athletes, needs to supplement. They need to supplement. But again, I don't want you to believe me.